Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 regular board meeting of the West Seneca Central School District. We normally would begin with the pledge, but I would ask if we can hold the pledge till after our executive session so we can do it with everyone here. Is anyone against that? Great. So if I can have an executive, if I can have a motion to go into executive for the purposes of, I want to make sure I get it right, contract negotiations?
We're going to be discussing entering a contract with Western New York Education
Going to be discussing entering a contract with the
Western New York
Education
Services
Council. And we'll edit that, and it'll make me sound like I know what I'm saying. We won't edit that, really. May I have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Laura, second from Mara. Sorry. All in favor? Aye. Anyone against? Okay, and Mr. Maloney will be joining us a little after 6. Thank you. We'll be back, everybody, as soon as we're done with executive. Thank you, everybody. We're back. Again, this is the Tuesday, September 10th board meeting. We're back from executive, and we are going to begin. First of all, I thank everyone for being here, and we'll begin with the pledge. Could our tenure recipients today please lead us in the pledge?
Sure do. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We started with executive session. We held the pledge over so we could do it with everybody here. So now we will move over to our superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Beatty. And good evening, everyone. It's my honor to share a few updates with you as we start our school year. I'd like to begin by just highlighting some of the things that have occurred since our faculty and staff came back to school. On September 3rd, we held our opening day faculty and staff assembly at West Senior. I'd like to thank Jay Brinker for hosting us at West Senior. And as you can see from the pictures there, it was an incredibly positive start for our faculty and staff. We had the marching band greeting our faculty and staff as they entered West Senior. As people were assembling in the auditorium, we had our orchestra playing. We also had the national anthem sung by our jazz vocal ensemble. So I'd like to thank the music department, the athletic department. They had students who brought in the flag. Our field hockey team was there at the opening of the assembly, and all of our union leaders had an opportunity to share a welcome back message, which was incredibly positive. It was a great positive way to start the school year, so I want to thank everyone for their involvement and support of that. Also, just sharing a few pictures from the start of our school year on September 5th. We had many happy faces that came back to our school campuses. On the bottom left, you see our annual senior sunrise that occurred at our high schools and some other images throughout the district. It has been a wonderful start to the school year, and we were so happy to welcome our faculty, staff, and our students back. Just this weekend, on Saturday evening, we held our Music in Motion competition that was held at East Senior High School. There's a picture here of our marching band. It was an incredible event, a little chillier than you would expect at this time of year, but it was an incredible event, and I just wanted to thank and recognize the army of volunteers that it takes to pull off that event. Having it been the first time that I attended it, I was incredibly impressed and really overwhelmed by the number of volunteers that were there making it happen. So congratulations to everyone that was involved in that event. I shared with the board tonight here at the table is a preview. This is a I guess you would say, a prototype of our district calendar. This is a preview of the district calendar. It is being printed at BOCES presently. We anticipate having that in district on Thursday with plans to distribute it and send it home to the oldest student in the household on Friday. I want to thank Stephanie Wright, who's here in attendance tonight, Melissa Schutram, and also Jess Shanahan. They are supporting us this year in both print and digital communications, and each of them had a hand in this, particularly a huge shout out to Stephanie Wright. This year's publication is absolutely beautiful. Very proud of the work that she did, and it will be coming home to our families this week. We will also have additional copies available in the main offices of our schools. If any community members would like to get a copy, they may pick it up in the main office of our schools. Update from our transportation department. We were laser focused all summer on ensuring that transportation was smoother and more successful and a smoother start this school year than what we had last school year. And certainly every school year has natural glitches that occur and bumps in the road, no pun intended for a transportation update. And we did have some minor bumps in the road, as to be expected. However, overall, it was an incredibly smooth start to the school year. Some of the challenges that we face that are beyond our control locally here as a school district, I'm sure if you are familiar with Union Road, you know that we have construction going on right now, which is causing us to experience some delays. We also partner with First Student, who has had some staffing shortages, and that has caused them to combine some bus runs, meaning that there's more students on a bus run, thereby the bus run is longer in length. We are working with First Student. They are actively recruiting, hiring, and training additional drivers to help alleviate that situation. So we're certainly optimistic that some of these early issues that we've dealt with will only improve in time. So a huge shout out and kudos to Linda O'Grady, who I think is in attendance tonight. Thank you, Linda. To her team in the office in the transportation department, and to our bus drivers and mechanics who worked tirelessly all summer so that we could have a better start to the school year. I have a few pictures. Just earlier today, Dr. Cervoni and I hosted a luncheon to thank everyone in the transportation department for all of their efforts. It was wonderful to be with them and just to be able to thank them. I do want to share also some updates to our spectator guidelines for athletic events. In light of some issues that we've had recently at athletic events, we're going to be enforcing some of our existing protocols and procedures that we will just be really trying to enforce with those supervisors who are on site for athletic events. So the first 4 bullet points that you have listed there are things that are not new guidelines or procedures, but we want to make sure that as we start another school year, we are communicating that out so that spectators are aware of what is allowable and now not allowable when we gather at our stadiums. Things like no backpacks, no bicycles. But in addition, anticipated to start later this month so that we have adequate time to communicate this out, we are going to be implementing some additional procedures as a result of some of the issues that we've dealt with. Quite honestly, we have a lot of middle schoolers who are being dropped off and unattended, and it is causing some supervision issues. And so high school students will be asked and expected to bring their identification with them so that we know that they are high school age. Any of our middle or elementary school students must be accompanied by an adult in order to be admitted to the game. We do not have the supervision to safely host an event where we are supervising hundreds of middle schoolers, and that is what we're encountering. So elementary and middle school students must be accompanied by an adult to attend the event. We will be communicating that out not only to our families through messaging to families, but also on the morning announcements at our middle schools so that our students are aware of that. So those communications will be coming, and we'll be looking to enforce those additional guidelines later this month. Looking ahead, This is an incredibly busy time of year. I would encourage our board and everyone in attendance or watching the live stream of this to keep an eye on our website where we have the most up-to-date calendars listed. There are a lot of back-to-school events such as open houses occurring throughout this month. Some other events that I simply wanted to highlight for you: the Academy induction, which is on September 17th. We have a new school board members event on September 26th, hosted by the Erie County School Boards Association. I do know that some of you have already RSVP'd that you'll be able to attend that event. And then some big and annual traditions. We'll be looking forward to our homecomings at West on October 4th, East October 19th, and the annual East versus West football game on October 25th. So those are my updates. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This time, we'll move to public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak publicly? If not, I will not read the long speech that I normally make. We're good? Everyone's happy? Everyone's good? Anyone anything to say? Excellent. We'll move on from public comments then to our wonderful consent agenda. I just want to take a minute or a second and point out the consent agenda is basically things that we're going to approve as a whole. If any board member has anything they would like removed from that, they typically either let us know ahead of time or now would be the time to do it. It's a lot of routine stuff. We've looked at it, we've talked about it as it's emailed to us, and we know it's coming. So the consent agenda basically saves a lot of time of going line by line. So at this time, I would like to have a motion from the board for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Maloney, motion to approve consent agenda. Wait, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Laura, and we will have no discussion on that. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you, and that is 5 through 9. So if you guys want to turn towards 10, and then we will get moving on introductions.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Cervoni?
I'd like to ask Dr. Cervoni to come up. We have some individuals in attendance tonight that we would like to recognize that the board just took action on and approval through approving the consent agenda.
Hi, thank you for having me up here. I'd like to just take a moment and recognize really two major milestones and accomplishments in a professional's life. First, next slide, will be our tenure recommendations. Tenure is, as I mentioned, I believe to be a significant milestone in a professional's life, certainly in our world of education. It involves accomplishing a 3 to 4 year probationary period, several observations, goal setting, and probationary period. So we have 4 people receiving tenure tonight. I do know that at least 3 of them are in attendance. I would ask anyone receiving tenure to please stand. We have Katie Lefevre, who is our librarian. Katie, you have some family here with you.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce them?
Yeah, so this is my daughter Cecilia, my husband Jim, and then I also brought Rosalia and Marie and Angela, and they're all here.
It's incredible. Congratulations. Dr. Lochran, receiving tenure tonight as our director of PPS. Congratulations. And Mr. Marchioli, our principal at East Middle School. Well done. Congratulations. Huge milestone, and we couldn't be happier, and look forward to many years to come. I just noticed this screen here, which is a really nice touch. Trying to read it. And another recognition are those are probationary appointments. And easy for me to say, as I have oversight over human resources, but I believe our most important resource in a school system is our human resource. And you can see several people being appointed tonight in a variety of different positions across the district, each one having an impact on our student learning and growth. I would ask anyone here tonight that is being appointed or has already been appointed in a new position, please stand. First of all, welcome to the West Seneca family. Thank you for interest in our great district, and we hope for many years of great success and making a difference in the lives of our students. Congratulations and welcome. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Savoni, and congratulations to our tenure recipients and to those that were appointed to our team. Welcome to the family.
So, thank you. We move on, we're going to move over to number 10. We actually will vote on 10A. If anyone's interested in making a motion on 10A, it's to abolish classified position.
I'll make a motion.
Sarah? May I have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Second motion to approve?
Yes.
Second to approve. Any discussion on it? Anyone? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 7-0. Thank you. That takes us to 10B, create classified positions. May I have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve 10B.
Make a motion to approve 10B from Marla. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Anyone? Lorraine?
Yes, I'll
Second to approve, thank you. Any discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0, thank you. We will move on to new business. Number 11, I believe, if anyone's interested in making a motion on all of 11, there's some good stuff in there. I'll give you a minute just to look through and see how you want to do that.
I'll make a motion to pass all of 11.
Lorraine, make a motion to approve all of 11?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a second from the floor, anyone? Or from the board?
I'll second it.
Sarah will second. Any discussion?
Yes, a question with regards to, see the contract for Terminate Solutions. This is for professional development for this year. So is this a contract that we're working with, a group that we're working with this current year, or for services already rendered for last year?
This would be a contract for the 24-25 school year for services that they would be delivering to us this school year.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. That was my only question.
Okay.
Ed, I apologize, could you pull D out of there? Do D separate?
Yes. Okay, so now this is going to take it to technical because we already have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Should you?
I'll just abstain from the whole thing.
Okay. I don't think it'll be an issue. Is that good?
That's fine.
Okay. Nicole's got a look on her face. I think we got it. We're good. I will just point out for comment again, thank you for the donations. It's something I'd love to point out, and I know the board appreciates and the district appreciates. We got money from Tremontana Contracting, DBA Roofs by Brian. Money from the Vincent J. Coppola family for scholarships. And looks like, good amount of money being donated again to our schools, so just want to point that out and thank everybody that's involved in that, and thank you for the district for accepting that. Any other questions on this, on 11? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Got it. So it passes 6-0 with one abstention. Thank you for keeping it simple. I appreciate that. We'll move on. We do not have to do any approval on 12. So that takes us to number 13, Board of Education discussion. And does anyone want to start with anything, or do you want to go right into liaisons?
Yeah, I'd like to start with something before we get into the committees.
Sure.
So I just learned that we're adding a coach to cross-country because of the large number of students that have come out, which is outstanding. I believe there are 37 athletes that have come out for the modified cross-country team, necessitating absolutely needing, for safety purposes, another coach. The reason I bring that up is that for the past several years, we've been seeing a downturn in the number of students participating in athletics. So my hope is that if we continue to see this resurgence of interest, that we will continue to support these athletes. If it's creating two teams, if there was idea that it was going to be a unified team, I'm sorry, not a unified team, but a district level team, that we are open to, even if it's a budgetary issue, that we are open to adding these opportunities for students. We would be remiss not to be open-minded to that, to continue to grow those programs, athletics or other areas where students are showing an interest. Coming out of COVID, we understood that, there was a lot of trepidation about getting re-involved with athletics and other extracurriculars. So I'm just pleased to see that, A, we have students that are showing that level of interest, B, that our district is ready to pivot and provide what those students need to participate. And if this continues, that we be in position to support that financially or other resources, whatever resources are necessary to allow that to happen.
I'd love to respond to that. We are incredibly excited, and I know we're just a week into the school year, but the level of engagement of our students feels remarkable this year. I think, on the heels of COVID, across the state and across the nation, we saw students that were not as engaged in school, whether it was athletics, socially, emotionally engaged in after-school clubs and activities. All of those things suffered coming out of the pandemic, and we're really seeing an uptick in participation, an uptick in the number of students trying out for our athletic teams, for example. I happen to be at East Middle School this morning with Mr. Marchioli and had a lovely conversation with the SRO there who said that students' social engagement, simply greeting adults, looking at them in the eye and saying hello, is something that we didn't see 2 years ago. And so it's exciting, and I appreciate your advocacy that if students are showing an interest in it, that we will try to respond the best we can to give them the programming and the opportunity to be engaged in school.
And I want to be really clear on what I'm asking for. I'm asking that if that is there, that we don't say, well, it's not in the budget this year, maybe next year. We have reserves, that's what you use reserves for. There's opportunities to support these children this year and build those opportunities in. We don't say, hey, come back next year, because they might not. So I'm saying that let's be ready to open up those opportunities this year for them.
Thank you.
I like it. I think give kids reasons to want to be here. Helps attendance, helps them learning. I love it. Any, good with that? Anything else?
I just wanted to bring up, so I reviewed all of our wonderful financial documents, I'm sure everybody did. And some of them, I would say, are vague, where others are more detailed, so you can see exactly what's being spent. So is that something that the Budget Advisory Committee would get a better detail on what's being spent? Because there was numerous of them that were just said, like M&T credit card. And I'd like to know, okay, well, what was that M&T credit card being used for? Because some of them were, several $100s or even $7,000. So that's my only concern is, we get these statements, and I'd like to know what that, either, is that a committee thing, or is that something we could actually have in those reports?
Sure.
Can I ask just a clarifying question, so I know I'm on the right path here? Are you referring to information we're sent as board members, or information we're releasing, like, say, with the agenda publicly?
What we have as board members.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like some were detailed, yeah, I mean, you could tell exactly what the money was being spent on, but other ones were just, M&T credit card, this much money. So I'm just curious to know exactly what is being purchased or what that money's being spent on.
I'm not necessarily going to speak out of turn here. My thing would be if you want to get together and either show me or show someone what.
Oh, you didn't review all the.
No. What specifically you're looking at, because we can then decide how the best way to share that information is. I don't know that the budget committee would deal with that, would they?
It may not be at that granular level of detail, whereas I think we're really looking at the Budget Advisory Committee to have an understanding of reserves, the utilization of reserves, the things that would influence the tax rate or the tax levy that we're asking of our community, things that would be more that 10,000-foot view. But if you have questions that are the more granular details, with Will and I, we can get you answers to any questions that you have.
And then, I've been involved in the audit committee.
That's why I think I was referring more to the.
Yeah,
audit
so I
committee.
kind of know what a lot of that stuff kind of is, and, am I interested in the food that was purchased at Wegmans for, a big meeting or something? Personally, I kind of know what it is, so yeah, we can put that together. We'll share it with the whole board, but we'll specifically, there may not be a reason why we just can't have a little more information, but it may be like, sometimes you might not want 30 pages of,
Yeah, no, like I said, some of them,
purchases,
it
so-
was just, black and white, like this was the electric bill, this was, math supply, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, but it's just the ones that just were blanket credit card purchase.
Yeah.
I would just like
Yeah,
some minor
we can
explanation.
dive into a little more detail on that, absolutely. And I'm assuming you got that?
Yes, oh, yes. Yep, I
You
handed it
were
out.
writing? Got it. Anyone else? Anything for the board? Committees? Does want to talk about committees? Okay, I am going to start. Everyone, see, we have a list of a lot of different committees on here. I'm just going to, Lisa, are these this is fairly new information that's been gathered on all the committees?
Yes, so one of the things upon my entry that I was trying to get my arms around of what structures do we have in place? What structures do we have in place as an organization to help us make decisions, to get input in the decisions that we make, and then when decisions are made or recommendations are developed at a committee level, how is that information shared out? So really coming in, I tried to assess what are our district structures, specifically the committees that we have, who chairs those committees, what is the frequency of committee meetings, who are the representatives on the committees, and there wasn't a comprehensive document that outlined all of that, so we put it together. So before you is the district-wide committees document. Some of these committees have board members that would have an opportunity to participate in the committees. Nicole, I believe, has gone through and highlighted those in yellow where we either have board members or are seeking board members to be on those committees. Other committees may be operating without board representation and may ultimately bring a recommendation to me and/or the Board of Education. So as you'll see, the first committee is the AIS committee. That does not have board members on it. Our administrative cabinet meeting, this was really with the intention to help to dissolve some of the silos that are referred to often in our district. There wasn't a regularity of our administrators getting together to promote communication, to promote an understanding of what departments were working on, priorities and things of that nature. But if we go to the next committee listed, this is an example of a committee where we either have board members that have already volunteered to serve on it, or we're seeking board members. So that would be the Budget Advisory Committee. We have listed there who participated in that committee in the past. I believe this was a committee from years ago that then was kind of on hiatus, and as you know, we are looking to bring back a Budget Advisory Committee to be able to promote communication and transparency in what we do. And so we should have a discussion about what board members may be interested in serving on that Budget Advisory Committee. We can have up to 3 on any of our committees where we have board representation.
Excellent, thank you. So, all that being said, first of all, this is awesome, thank you very much. Very, very great information. Do we want to discuss anything, any committees or anything related that we're not in current, like, going to have seats on at this moment, or do you want to just go right to the board ones and make decisions on those? I.e., the District Academic Intervention Services Committee. Do we want to talk about it at all, or just go to the ones that we're involved in?
So is the question, should or could we have board membership on these committees?
The question from me is, and that could be it, I just didn't know if you wanted me to go through each committee individually, or just go through the committees that the board is currently involved in.
No,
I'm okay with anything.
I'd like to go through each committee
Okay, great.
and discuss if it's would be prudent to have a member of the board on any of those committees.
Okay, yeah.
So
Any-
one thing that I'll ask, as you can see when you flip through this, there are a number of committees. And I think it's really important, if you volunteer to serve on a committee, that you do the best that you can to make a commitment to being at as many of the committee meetings as possible, ideally all of them. Because I think what it's really hard is when a committee gets wheels in motion and then visitors come in at different points in the process. So I am happy to entertain a discussion about the committees, but I do think it's critical that if someone, and that's, I have sent this message as well to administrators and other stakeholders, that if you volunteer to be on a committee, it's really critical to make that a priority so that you're not hindering the committee's work in progress.
And I agree with that. I would ask as far as if you're representing a committee and you cannot make it, at least minimally see if someone can make sure they're there for you to collect the data. But I would also like it if we could consider, even if it's a quick email to the rest of the board, like, hey, I attended the safety committee meeting, here are the minutes. Like, just share it out to the board so we can, those of us who aren't attending, we can see it. So, I mean, I'll just start with each one and we can just decide whether we want to talk about it or like, hey, we know, like so the District Academic Intervention Services Committee. There's no board members seated on it. I read it through and I think it's got great representation. That's my opinion. Again, you guys, I don't know if anyone wants to, everyone's good with the way it is and I don't think we need a board member on that. So that's what you want to go for, right, Vince? Or am I not getting deep enough in it?
I'm sorry?
That's what you want to go for, right? Like, we're going
Yep.
to talk about each one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the next one, obviously, would,
Can I just ask a question? Perhaps it will be helpful just as like ground setting to understand maybe Dr. Kruger why some of them are in green and some of them are in yellow. Of course, we could still go through them all, but that'll be really helpful context.
so the green is non-board?
But why?
Oh.
Like the rationale behind
okay.
why? Yeah.
So I think generally speaking, the role of our Board of Education is in setting policy and being at the policy level. Some of these committees are very much what I would call and refer to as being in the weeds, the minutia. If we take as example this AIS committee, they are talking about very granular things about when are we conducting our universal screening of students, the data analysis of that, things of that nature that ultimately could have a recommendation that comes to the board if we realize that there might be a request for staffing, for example. But generally speaking, because it's not going to directly be related to policy or financial oversight of the board, likely there's not that direct correlation to the work of the board. Whereas some other committees are much more directly, if we take, for example, and contrast that to the Budget Advisory Committee, that very much having fiscal oversight is clearly a responsibility of the Board of Education. And so there's much more of a direct connection and direct correlation to the appropriateness of a board member being on that committee, or up to 3. And the reason for that number, just to remind you, is when we have 4 board members, that constitutes a quorum and an official meeting of the board. So we would only have up to 3 board members as representatives serving on any of our committees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Sorry for jumping right to the easy
And one of the things I
answer.
would say to that is that everything that has a committee here ends up being approved at some level by the board. So we're looking at the district calendar committee. We are the ones who end up adopting that. So having some input at the ground level would seem to make sense. That way, bringing back to the board, this is what went into developing that calendar, so that you're voting a little bit more informed. So, because we just went through and we voted on all these items in a matter of 7 minutes with a very little conversation. So when it comes time to adopt the code of conduct, I think it would be important to have a board member on there, on that committee, so that when it comes up to vote, there's somebody that was there in the room that had that discussion, not wait till it gets here.
Okay.
To have
Yeah.
that discussion and kick it back to the committee. Why not front row that and make sure that
Yeah.
board voice
And-
is part of that?
And that's what I'm thinking, is if we kind of thumb through these as we go here, we can see which ones we feel we want to, yeah, right? But like the District Academic Intervention Services Committee, I don't think we need to have board members on it. That's just me. Anyone else here feel differently? Okay, so we could, I think, skip that one. District Administrative Cabinet meeting, clearly, it is what it is.
I think you should be at all of those.
I'll bring the soda. The next one, this is the fun one. District Budget Advisory Committee. In the past, myself, Diane, and Liz have served on it. I love the idea of serving on it. Again, I'm not open to locking out 3 other people, though. So any board members interested in being involved in this? This is the, I would say this is the cream of the crop with what we recently dealt with. So
I have another ground setting question.
yeah, absolutely.
Just in terms, generally speaking, how frequently these committees meet and what the time commitment is. I think
Sure.
will help inform all of the board
I would
members.
say very generally, and it can vary by committee, but generally once a month. You'll see noted where there's exceptions to that. And for example, with the Budget Advisory Committee, there's no representatives listed yet. I have shared communications with our union leaders to ensure that we have stakeholders from all bargaining units. We're going to be inviting community members and parents to be part of that. And we will get feedback from the committee as to the preferred time to meet. Is it during the workday? Is it in the afternoon? Is it in the evening? Is it meeting face-to-face? Is it meeting via Zoom? And help steer that for committee members. So if a meeting date and time and location are not listed there, it's likely because it's still a work in progress. Whereas you'll see some committees may only meet a few times a year, depending on the function of that committee.
So-
But generally, once a month.
And I'll throw it out there, again, this is not, this isn't like getting elected to the board where you're stuck with it for 3 years. If you want to be on this committee and things change, and I'm kidding about being stuck, but if things change, we just email back out to the board and say, guys, the meetings aren't being held at a great time for me. Can someone else step up and take my place? Like, there's no, we can change this out. I just ask that you don't sign up and then just never show up. So, I mean, again, I'm interested in this. Anyone else? Anyone else even interested in this being a sub for me type thing, or
I can be a sub.
you could be a sub for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone okay with me being on this? Okay. And anyone else? Once the meeting dates kind of are set and everything, we'll email it back out, and if there's a third board member, or,
And say once the meeting.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
the
I might
meeting.
be,
Yeah.
I might be
This-
interested.
okay, yeah, this isn't, there's no fees you have to pay, like getting Bill's tickets in a couple of years. Move on to the District Calendar Committee. I think this is one of the ones you're referring to, Vince? The
One of
District,
them, yes.
District
One of them.
Calendar Committee, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is she still here? It's this one, correct?
Well, that is our beautiful publication of the district calendar. The work of this committee is really outlining when will superintendent's conference days occur, if we're having half-days,
Great.
things of that nature, ensuring, and Dr. Logren leads this committee, ensuring that we have adequate number of calendar days or school days scheduled to meet the 180-day minimum requirement. In addition, the instructional hour requirement, which is a factor. There's things that are beyond our control, for example, the scheduling of Regents exams, but things that are within our control are things like when do we schedule superintendent's conference days, half-days, things of that nature. Even our breaks, we have some flexibility as to when breaks may occur, which varies year to year. You'll see this year that there are local school districts that have 2 full weeks off around the Christmas and New Year's holiday, and other school districts that have less than that. That's a local decision that's often influenced based on contractual constraints that they may have as to what is our first day of school, what is the last day of school. So it's that calendar, usually the one-page publication that you may
Okay.
see that comes out that's on our district website. That's the work of this committee.
Okay, and so, I mean, again, right, currently it's green. Do we want to make it yellow? Anyone?
I'm not saying that I want to do it, I'm just saying that there has been talk about a lot of input on that, so I don't know if, I know Vince, you had a lot of ideas or concerns with it, between sporting, being the night of.
Well, that's a whole
lots of stuff.
different, that's a whole different ballgame. So
Okay.
this year, the calendar committee, the things that I look at here that could use some input from parents and our constituents would be the scheduling of half-days, the scheduling of local exams during a Regents Week, kids not going to school for 4 or 5 days in a week during Regents exam. Things of those natures that impact not just the operation of the school, but also the lives of the parents of our students. So
Yeah.
that's what I think there needs to be, some level of input at that level. So these folks know, so they get some feedback right at the outset. Because if they go through all the work of building this calendar and they bring it to the board and we say no, then what?
Right.
But that doesn't happen, right? Because we end up saying, it's all right. So my point would be to front row that and get some input while these folks are putting in that hard work of planning it.
Can I ask
So-
a question?
Yeah.
So, keeping in mind with the board's role of providing oversight and not getting into the weeds of the day-to-day operations, which is Dr. Kruger and her staff's role, is it more appropriate to perhaps provide some high-level principles about the types of, like, parameters around when half-days should be occurring and perhaps when we feel, or individual board members feel uncomfortable with them occurring, as opposed to serving on, on the committee itself?
I'll give you my experience, that hasn't worked, because we made many comments at this table about different aspects we want to see in the calendar, and it hasn't changed. So that's
And
my experience.
I don't want to counterpoint Vince. Part of the other reason is a board member or two might make a comment, but unless we take action as a consensus of the board, they don't it's not it's, if we take a vote and say, you must have this, that's different than just saying, I don't like this, or I want to change
I
this.
don't know that sitting on the committee is getting into the day-to-day operation. It's a contributing a voice to a process.
Right, so I see two options here. If we want to be involved more than we are now, I see two options. Being on the committee, or, well, the committee, because it looks to me like the committee does a lot of work between February and March, not just one meeting.
So an idea that I'd like to suggest that we consider to move us forward on this is, I think it would be very appropriate for the board to have discussion to reach consensus as a board, even through discussion, if not through a formal vote, to give me direction and guidance that I can then give to the committee chair people. So I know not directly related to the school calendar, but I heard frustration expressed tonight that there are 2 open houses scheduled tonight on the night of a board meeting. If that is what the board is directing me to ensure does not happen going forward, I will take that and ensure that that doesn't happen going forward. So if there is consensus on things like that from the board, by all means, I think we should use this time together as a board, ensure that we have consensus as a group, because your power is when you collectively, as a majority of the board, express your viewpoint on something, maybe differently than one board member on a committee. And if as a board you have feedback related to half-days, related to the scheduling of open houses, then it would be my role to take that back and give that charge to the administrative team that this is the expectation going forward.
Yep, so that leads me to my second idea, and again, I'm open for anything, but what if, I know we have work sessions out the wazoo, but when this is there some point to kind of do a work session on how the process works and learn what the committee does, like even a few minutes of it, just to kind of help us understand how these decisions are made? Like, am I being clear on that?
I think maybe a work session where we kind of give our feedback on things that we'd like related to the calendar, maybe even have someone from the committee or the chairperson from the committee.
A few members of the committee.
Just so we can talk specifics of where our concerns are.
Yeah.
And I think that would be healthy operations. If you do have an opinion, I can't speak for Dr. Logren, but I think I would assume this of all of our individuals who are chairing committees. If there's guidance, direction, or feedback from the board, I would appreciate having that ahead of time before a committee goes and invests time and work, and then the committee brings the recommendation here, only to have the recommendation potentially not supported by the board. So if there is a strong I suppose, will of the board to have that known up front. So given the timeline of this, to your point, Ed, I think a work session that occurs, let's say, for example, in January, where we can talk about, are there any parameters that you would like us to consider when developing next year's calendar, to have that discussion in January, so we go into that meeting with the committee kind of with our marching orders, or at least the guardrails up of what we need to work within, so that we're guiding the committee towards that. And then ultimately, the work of the committee should be very much in alignment with what the board is seeking.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyone?
100% agreeable to that. I
Okay.
believe that that's probably a more appropriate way. The last thing I want it to be is that I'm here as a board member to look over the shoulder of the professionals that are doing this work. It would be to contribute to help steer things in the right direction so that we get the outcome we're seeking. But this process, which you just suggested, is probably more constructive. So I'm good with that.
Excellent. Plus, when the work sessions are a little longer,
That's fine.
Nicole gets us a snack.
You don't know where to go.
Okay, so that one's good. District Code of Conduct. In the past, we actually, I think, have had board members on that one, but I don't know, again, I don't know if we want to follow the similar route that we just had with the previous one.
I would say yes.
I kind of like that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree that, Dr. Kruger just laid out, that is probably a far more constructive means than trying to make that committee meeting. These folks are on a committee, they
I like
understand
it.
what our objectives are, and try to incorporate those objectives into,
Yeah, and again, and if there's something major on the Code of Conduct pathway, and it goes exactly opposite of how we're feeling, I'm sure they'd want to know about it sooner than when it comes up to vote, say, at the end of a year or something. Cool. So do we, as far as District Code of Conduct, any ideas? It says meetings and times, like a spring date to be determined, so can we work towards a work session? Obviously, you know the best time to kind of fit that in for us. Okay, great.
Sure, I'll make a note of that.
and Mr. Beatty, I would think that all those that are in green would follow that same.
Okay, great, love it. Well, look, we got a yellow one. District Community Education Committee. I've served on this probably 8 years. Am I, Stephanie? Am I right? Yeah, love it. It's great. It's really not as much, there's not really a whole lot of work involved as far as, the committee meets, and I learned a lot about community education and all that. I think it's very helpful. So I don't know if anyone wants to participate in this. If there are meetings, I would love to attend when the meetings are needed. Anyone else?
I would.
Sarah? And again, I would gladly step aside if there's 2 other board members. Don't take it as I have to be on it.
I would enjoy being on that.
Vince? Okay, is there a third? Anyone? Bueller? No? Okay, Ed gets to be the third. Excellent. Great committee. Very interesting stuff. Anything we could do to support Stephanie on that. Okay, District Comprehensive Improvement Plan, green. We're good to go on that, or do we need, okay, perfect. District Curriculum Council. District Directors. District Diversity and Equity and Inclusion. District Elementary Principals Meeting. Wonder who goes to that. Okay, we got another yellow one. District Facilities Improvement Team. In the past, Vince, Diane, and Molly have served on it. Is this the facilities? Okay, so previous to that, I've served on this too. So anyone want to discuss it? Anyone want to be on it? Anyone have interest? Besides me, clearly, I love this stuff.
I'll
Vince?
remain on there.
And again, I would love to be on it, but I don't want to take 2 seats away if anyone else is interested. Anyone? Okay. Ed?
Do you know what time of day they meet?
We haven't yet determined that. Will and I would be very involved in that, and so if there's feedback from the group, we can try to be accommodating to that.
Okay. When we get also some dates again, if someone else is interested, or even 2, I'm not, I don't need to be this, at every meeting. District Policy Committee. In the past, Liz, Diana, and Molly have served on it. I've never been involved in this myself, so I can't tell you what it's like. I know there's people interested here.
Yes, I am. I'm interested in the policy committee.
Marla did express her interest in being on this committee, and in us just discussing when this committee would meet, we felt that it may be ideal to capitalize on a night that's already on your calendar, and we'd be looking at the policy committee meeting to meet at about 5 p.m. Prior to a board meeting, since it's already a designated night as opposed to trying to find an alternate day or time.
I'd like to do it.
If there can be a third one, I'd like to do that.
There absolutely can be a
Thank
third
you.
one.
There are over 200 policies.
You each get, I don't know.
And just to note, we
77.
did, Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at our first policy committee meeting being on October 8th at 5 p.m. October 7th, is it? I believe it's October 8th would be the first policy committee meeting at 5 p.m.
October 10th?
October 8th.
8th. I have 8th for the board, okay. Cool. District Professional Development Plan. In the past, it says Vince, Ed, and Molly.
Yeah, so this would be a question for me. This, even less so than the code of conduct or the calendar, I don't see the purpose of board members being on
Yeah.
district professional development.
I don't know what this is, and I've never attended a meeting, so I think it was Ed from a long time ago.
So by New York State regulations, we do have to have a professional development plan that's submitted to New York State Department of Ed that outlines the professional development efforts that we have to improve teaching and learning for our teachers and for our principals. By New York State regs, the majority of the committee needs to be teachers on that committee. And then we can have, of course, additional people, whether it's members of CSEA. Some districts have community members or parents that serve on the professional development committee. Typically, there's also a representative from higher education so that we ensure that there's that alignment, not only K-12, but with higher education. I don't believe we're required to have a board member on the Professional Development Committee, but certainly it seems that in the past we have had them and would be welcome to have.
I believe
one more
Molly,
meeting than Ed. Ed's 0. I did attend one more.
you did? Okay.
Yes. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think Molly went to them all. if I'm not
I don't
mistaken.
think so.
No?
Was that the one I was
Look at
at?
aligning some of these. I like the idea of
Just trying to
having
make it sound
committee
like we were
meetings
here.
lined up with board meetings or with work sessions. I think that, like for us with younger kids too, I can dedicate an entire Tuesday and start at like 4 or 4:30 doing committee meetings, board meeting, or doing a work session. If we could look at coordinating some of the times with that, then I think we'd have better board participation, because I think we all kind of plan around those Tuesdays being board Tuesdays.
So I'm just going to throw that out there, clearly, board consensus, I'm fine with. I hate that idea. The few times I've participated in a meeting, coming in at 5 o'clock, doesn't start at 5 o'clock, and then we're pushing, rushing, and skipping a lot of stuff to be done by time for the board meeting. And then when things pop up, like today, we have executive 5, it runs into it. I'm just giving my own personal opinion on it. None of the committees I'm involved in are going to do that, so I'm okay with whatever the board wants. I've never been comfortable, even the audit committees, we show up, it seems like we're rushed through stuff, and then we got to get to the board meeting. So just my 2 cents.
I did the audit committee last year. We were able to keep within the time allowed.
Perfect, well, I wasn't there talking, so it worked out.
He said
So,
it, not me.
yeah, I'm okay with whatever way we do it. I just want to put that out there.
Okay.
So what are we doing about this one? Are we going to make it a green, or like a green with a board member? Let us know when the dates are, and we'll see who can make it?
I'm fine, and maybe with Kim McCartan's help, we can just ensure that we're not required to have a board member on this committee. I don't believe we are, so I am fine
Okay.
if we move forward. I also appreciate that you all have full-time jobs and families, and there are a number of committees, and you should not feel an obligation to be on any committees that don't really require board representation.
Yeah. So if there is a board member required to be there, let us know, and I will, one way or another, one of us will be there.
We'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
If we do have to have a board member on that, I don't believe we do.
And just a follow-up question on that, if the board is either required to or is able to just review the final report too, could be another alternative.
The professional development plan is something that we submit annually to the state, to New York State Department of Ed, or every 2 years, I believe. Mrs. McCartan, could I ask that you forward that to me and I'll share it with the board members?
It's not by chance the one that I looked at, and is that something different?
Yes, it's the last year's is on the website.
Okay.
We do approve that every single year. It does get updated by the committee, and we approve that.
Is that the one that I?
You reviewed
So-
and signed our APPR
Oh, got it.
plan,
Okay.
which is
Just-
our teacher evaluation plan that
Okay.
requires the unit president of the teachers union to sign and also board president.
Excellent. Okay, just checking, because I know the thing you sent over, I had to read and approve it and sign it.
That was the
That's not this.
APPR
Okay,
plan.
got it.
A lot of plans, a lot of committees.
A lot of reading. District safety meeting. And if you think I don't want to be involved in this, you're crazy. I love the district safety committee. I love being involved in it. I've been involved for a long time. Again, I don't want to take away from anyone's experience, though, if there's 3 board members that want to be on it, but I definitely am interested.
Well, I'll be there, so.
We do have a board member that will
Yeah.
be participating.
I was going to say, is there room for 2 since he's going to be?
Yeah, he counts as a board member even though he's
Yeah.
there for the other reasons. So
Yeah.
there's room for up to 3.
All right, if nobody
So-
else wants to, I would like that one.
Anyone else?
I think you 3 have it covered.
Okay, great. And I'll be honest with you, I know 3 of us probably will have a lot of input, but if one of us for some reason can't make it, feel free to let the board know if someone wants to attend and learn what one of those meetings is like, because I think they're great. I think the people that run them are great, and I think everyone who's there is very passionate about our district, so I love it. Jeremy, Maureen? District Special Education Advisory, and it looks like there's not been a board member involved in this?
So it's noted here that there was a board rep in the past, which leads me to conclude that maybe that wasn't in recent years. Jackie Fowler, could you just weigh in on representation?
Diane Barris was on the committee when it was first formed, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
When do you typically meet?
We usually typically meet later in the afternoon, but are open to suggestions if someone wants to be a part of that.
I obviously have an interest in that.
This is to review our district special education plan.
Okay. I'd be interested.
That's what I.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Anyone else?
I'd
Okay.
have to see the dates and times, but possibly, yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's a 3rd spot, so when we get some dates and times, we can reach back out on that. District Technology Meeting. What is that? That's pretty cool. Internal Audit Committee. So, in the past, the Internal Audit Committee, that's the one that meets like 3 times a year, Will, right? Okay,
Liz and I were at the internal audit committee last year.
I believe so, yes.
I'd be interested in doing it again.
Okay.
Will was great about working times out for us, so.
I'd be
Anyone else?
interested as well, depending on the times.
So this is one of those meetings, I believe, Will, we held before the board meetings and it worked out really well, right?
Yeah, the first meeting would be October 8th,
Okay.
before the board meeting that night.
Was there another meeting?
We did do a second one in the spring, and it was via Zoom.
Then there'll be a second meeting at some point when the internal audit is complete. And then there'll be a 3rd one where you can take on whatever topic that could be decided to take on.
Okay. Yeah, I found it very productive and great meeting. What am I remembering is on the 8th? When are we holding?
So I think trying to capitalize on board meeting nights is convenient for board members, but we can't have all of our committees meeting on that same night. So right now, we do have the policy committee meeting that's scheduled for October 8th, and also it appears the internal audit committee. So one of those 2 meetings, we will have to adjust and move, and Will and I can follow up after tonight's meeting and follow up with the representatives that just volunteered tonight to see which one will we move. Will it be the internal audit committee? If auditors are coming in, that may be something that we cannot change, and so likely we'll be looking to shift policy. And now that we have our designated reps for policy, I would just work with Nicole and the policy committee representatives to find a different date and time,
And maybe it can be before the work session. If
which
we
would
have
be
to-
October
yeah.
22nd. Okay, let's consider that. Will?
The audit committee meets before the board meeting, receives a presentation from the independent auditors. That presentation is, for the most part, duplicated during the formal board meeting, after which the board accepts the results of the audit. So we could, for that purpose, the board itself could act as a committee as a whole. And just receive one presentation in public of the draft document and then act to accept it or not.
And
I'm just trying to make the schedule work.
Yeah, and I'm not on the other one that's meeting, so if you do want to have any people go over it before the public presentation, I would come in early for that. It's up to you guys.
There are people that do not conflict with the policy committee. You could have the auditors here early to review that.
And then we could look at the future, we could come up with ideas and stuff going forward if you want to. I'll just come in at 5
I'm
on
fine
the
with
8th.
that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I'll come in and do the little pre-meeting, they'll do the policy one, and then
You'll see it again at that committee as a whole.
perfect. So I'm going to list us 3, though, as on that committee for now,
Okay, great.
okay? And there's no more yellow or green. Looks like we,
And just to, I guess, respond to this conflict that's come up, part of why it's critical that we map out the dates and times is to avoid conflicts. And so, clearly you can see this is still a work in progress where we're securing our representatives, maybe polling our representatives to find out what dates and times work. But I want the dates and times to be transparent so that if someone has a suggestion, let's say related to district safety, they know when the next meeting is coming up, they can share their feedback with the representative. The representative can then go and take it to the committee, that we're operating in a really transparent way where dates and times of our committee meetings are published, and we can also then avoid conflicts of 2 committees scheduled to meet at the same day and time.
excellent. Yeah, I mean, everyone good so far? I can tell you that this is the most conversation and productive part we've ever had on setting up committees. And I dare to speak for the people who run the committees, this is probably a much better way of going about it than just us randomly showing up, correct? Yeah, so I appreciate that very much. And it really helped me understand a lot with this, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else, anything about committees? Good. Anyone else, anything else before we move on to some other business? Okay. So I'm gonna read the thing I need to do we're gonna go take a motion to go into executive, hopefully. I'll let the public know that we're all set with any public portions of the meeting. We do not anticipate coming back and conducting any business whatsoever after executive besides adjourning the meeting. So, again, we'll not be offended if you guys don't sit in this room while we go to executive. At this time, I'd like to take a motion to go into to convene an executive session for discussion related to contract negotiations, employment history of a particular person, and matters leading to the removal of a particular corporation.
I'll make a motion to go in executive session.
Excellent. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second? I'll give it to Lee. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll take a brief recess, catch up real quick with people in the audience, use the restroom, and we'll go to executive. Thank you.